Well, guys, here we go. Let me zoom out a little bit here. I don't know how your towns are or whatever, but here in the burbs, they're pretty lenient. So every now and then, I've got a bunch of this plastic. It's that corrugated plastic, and it looks like a box type corrugation. And I've got a bunch of that. And seeing that I have a sign or a vinyl cutter, I make up some vinyl letters whenever I want. Now originally, it starts out on just a roll. I just walked away from the camera for a minute. Starts out on a roll, whatever color of vinyl I want. Now, I don't know if you can see that in there, but this is a cutout of a scope. But once I pick this and peel off what I want and don't want, then it'll look like this. And then at that point I can transfer it to anything that I want to transfer it to, anything that it'll stick to. Well, in this case, where I'm going with this is every now and then I'll make up a half a dozen of these things, and I go out and I place them around the town, next to traffic lights, so when the cars are stopped, they'll see them. A couple of large department stores. We have a Walmart up here, and as you exit the Walmart parking lot, you are actually coming out right in front of a fence that's fenced around this probably close to 15 or 20 acres piece of property that's been vacant for 100 years, and everybody seems to use the fence as their personal billboard. So, we all go up there and we all make use of it. Now, this has been on here for a while. That's why I'm having a problem with that S. So if that continues, I'll just start from another direction. And we make these signs up. Excuse me. And we just hang them up. I'll put a phone number on it. And the next thing you know, I'll pick up 4 or 5, 6 calls from each one. So it works out pretty decent. And then when I naturally give the classes, or if I get a call, I always ask, how did they hear about me and things. So, but it works okay for me. Now you got to remember though, I'm making these myself. I'm not paying to have them made, because if I had to do that, I wouldn't be placing them as freely as I do, only because the anti-gunners eventually will take them down. Because they'll show up missing every now and then, and it's somebody that doesn't like guns, because it's only my sign that's missing. So it's either that or a competitor, and there's really no competitors around here. And I don't mean that in a harsh way. I just mean that we all get along, and there's only maybe a half a dozen or a dozen of us at all that do this around here. So like I say, we help one another. So there's really no competitiveness when it comes to this. It's basically safety. So now that that's on there, I'll get a squeegee. Hold on a minute, bear with me. I'd like to get a hard one over here, but apparently somebody else decided they wanted to use my hard one more so than me. So I'll have to use the soft one. I usually use this one if I'm actually doing lettering on a truck, or something. And like I say, I kind of gave up a lot of the in other words, doing it for a living, the commercial side of it. But it's nice to have the cutter if you're in any type of business for the few bucks that it's going to cost you. Because if you ever want to make a sign or change a sign, you don't have to depend on somebody else as to a time frame and when it's going to get done and how much it's going to cost you to get done. You know, if you can do it yourself and you have the equipment to do it yourself, you can take as much time as you want, make it as elaborate as you want, change the fonts as many times as you want, you know, and it doesn't really cost you all that much, you know. You know, if you want to do one for your truck or your car, you know, a magnetic sign, I mean, all this stuff is available, you know, to buy. So, and you don't have to spend a lot of money like I did. I mean, my initial investment, because I bought a printer, a large format printer, my original investment, if I remember right, was somewhere around $26,000. You know, but I went a little bonkers because I was going to do this for a living when I decided to retire. You know, and I made money on it because I had a boat. So, you know, everybody that had a boat or bought a boat, wanted to change the name on their boat or whatever, they naturally come and see me because I'm right there. You know, and they knew that I'd try to take care of it as much as possible, seeing that I knew them, one, two, had a boat. So they kind of understood, you know, and so I did a lot with that. Plus a lot of vehicles and things, you know, and signs. But, and then I got my truck done. You know, I got them on the truck. I put them on the glass. I did some custom tint work, and then within the tint, I actually inlaid some print. And then my wife, she has a Subaru, so I utilized her two side glasses in her rear glass, and it works. You know, like I say, you know, away we go. So by having a cutter, you know, like I say, you can spend a lot. The printer actually costs the most, but you don't need a printer. And believe me or not, the printers, they're nice to have. You know, if you're going to do any large printing, if you want to print out a full-size silhouette of somebody in color, you know, you can print anything. My printer would print up to 50 inches wide, and it would take a whole roll of media, which is about 160 feet long. So at that point, I would be able to print something out as long and wide as that in one shot. So if I wanted to print out a 6'4", 500-pound fat guy and use that as a target, well, then I can do that. But it's expensive. That's the problem with the printers. You know, the printer's going to cost you anywhere, I'd say, $10,000 to $15,000 to get one that's fair. You know, then the media, you know, that's going to cost you $300-400 a roll. The ink, you know, that's going to cost you, because there's at least 4 as a minimum, you know, ink cartridges, and they're the size of a cigar box, so those are going to cost you, you know, $200-300 a piece. You know, so it can get expensive, and then you have to make sure you clean the heads periodically, because if you let the machine sit for too long, it is shot. And that's what happened to me. We were moving from one location to the other, and I put everything in storage. And while it was in storage, I never cleaned the head because I wasn't thinking it was going to be there as long. But the next thing you know, winter came about, you know, and I didn't feel like pulling it all out, so I left it there. And when I finally did get to pulling it out, well, guess what? The heads were froze. And for them to come and fix it, it was going to cost me close to $3,000 just for them to get out here, because I had to pay the plane fare. And I had to buy the plane fare when they wanted it to get out here, so I couldn't wait for a deal on plane fare. Then actually I had to pay for the parts and the time while they were here. Their overnight stay, because they planned on staying overnight, only because they'd order the parts one day and get them the next. So, hey, Ashbet, guys, Ashbet. So, you know, it was one of those things to where it was going to get rather expensive. Now, I had used that for, I don't know, the printer was probably about 3 years old. So I said, you know what, I am not going to spend close to $6,000 by the time we were done to repair a $10,000 printer that's 3 years old. So I told him to screw off, and that's the way I left it. But anyway, that's where we're at so far. As you can see, paste it down, peel it off, do what we have to do. You know, I will throw NRA someplace. Down here I'll put a phone number. I should have cut it square first, but I'll cut it square in a minute, so that's not a big deal. NRA, seeing that I have no room to run it either way unless I put an additional flap sign or on the top. I can run this one across the top with an additional flap, let it hang from the bottom on a flap. But at this point, the NRA doesn't make too much of a difference because some people just don't like NRA, but they don't mind guns. You know, I mean, there's a weird bunch out there, as we all know. So I'll just save this for my phone number, and this one's going to go on a fence, so nobody's going to see the backside, so I don't have to worry about the backside. Some of them I double side them because I hang them so they can be seen coming or going. But there's one. I got a couple more to do. So let me cut some vinyl. And oh, anyway, I got a minute here. Yeah, I got another minute. Talking about the machine. When it comes to the machine, la machine, yeah, you can buy a vinyl cutter to do the job if you're not going to go monstrous and you just want one to do small jobs to make a few bucks on the side with, and you want one to do, you know, your own lettering or vinyl work with. Then at that point you can actually get away with spending maybe $3,000 to $4,000. The machine's probably going to cost you, I don't know, yeah, about $2,500, give or take. That'll be like a 24-inch machine, so it'll do 24 inches top to bottom by the length of the media, you know, which could be 90 to 100 feet. You know, and then the program, they usually throw you a program when you buy the machine, you know, for basic lettering, you know, with different kind of fonts and things like that. But you can always download extra fonts on the computer. There's a couple of websites where you can get them for nothing that work. And then there's some artwork that comes with it, you know, and then the vinyl. You know, the vinyl, depending on what you buy, can cost you anywhere from, I don't know, $20 a roll up to $60, $70 a roll. I tend to hover in the middle. I spend about $35, $40 a roll, 15-inch. And I keep it at 15 because that's most of the time is where I'm at. I mean, if you do anything bigger than a 10 to 12-inch letter, you know, then you shouldn't be using a smaller machine anyway. But the 15-inch kind of gives you room to play, even though it'll take a 24 or an 18. So, but you don't want to cut to the end anyway. You want to allow yourself a couple of inches from each end when you start. So that, again, if you are off. But there's nothing wrong with grabbing a vinyl machine. If somebody's got $3,000, $4,000 laying around, and they've got a computer, you know, I had to buy a computer too, by the way. That's one of the reasons why it cost me as much as it did, because I had computers, but I'm not going to take my computers from home and bring them to the office when I was doing this. So, but yeah, you can get away with having inventory in the vinyl. You know, 5, 6, 7, 8 different colors, some transfer paper. And if you get transfer paper, try to get the clear. That works better for you than the paper. And then at that point, the machine, you know, a program that they give you, you can always upgrade the program later if you feel you have to. But you know, for under $4,000, you can be in business. You know, and if you have a business and you're doing a lot of signs, you know, we got sign guys around here that'll charge you $80 just to print out something like this. If I bring in the program with it already done on the disc. So all he wants to do is plug the disc in, cut it out, and hand it to me. He wants $80 for that. You know, I had him do one sign for me that was about the size of the one I just did, and it cost me $160. I mean, it took him less than a half an hour to do. Now, granted, it's not all time. I mean, he put a lot of money into his machinery and his equipment, and I have to agree that, you know, that has to be paid for somehow, because if it breaks, you know, he has to repair it. So you have to allocate a few bucks for everything you do back into the kitty to keep the equipment going. So, but it's worth it in the long run. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a few more of these today, and tomorrow I'll put out a few, and then I got a class coming up So I gotta get ready for that, and then